Hi, biology students. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to go through an in-detailed review of the study guide. So I am going to go ahead and switch over my screen over here so that we can go ahead and go through a few of the questions in detail just to help you guys along. Okay, so for the first page, I am doing that in class. So numbers 1, 2, and 3, you guys should all already have. I'm going to start over here on this page with hawk predation on pigeons, and then we will move on from there. So, like I mentioned earlier, these are all the graphs that you guys are going to see on your final. Okay, so a couple of things that you guys need to go ahead and to look at in this hawk predation graph. Right, first thing you guys should do is to double check, and you guys should read what the figure is about. Right, it says, in the figure above shows how the number of pigeons grouped in a flock affects the ability of hawks to attack them. Right, so if there's only one pigeon in the flock, you guys will see that the hawk is able to get it 80% of the time. Right, if you see 2 to 10 pigeons in a flock, a hawk is able to go ahead and get a pigeon 60% of the time, so on and so forth. So the pattern that you guys should see, right, is that as the pigeons increase, right, so as pigeons go up, right, the attack success of hawks goes down. So that would be your answer for number 1. So you guys would write, as pigeons increase, right, hawk success. Hawk success. In other words, hawk success means if the hawk is able to go ahead and to eat them, right? Hawk killing them. Hawk success as a pigeon, hawk success decreases or it goes down. Okay, so that's what you guys should get out of the first graph. So number 4 is about this graph right here. Okay, so going ahead and moving on, right, it says in figure 2, the graph above shows how the number of pigeons grouped in a flock affects the distance at which the flock could detect a hawk that is about to attack them, right? So that you guys can see when there's only one pigeon, right, the pigeons do not have that much distance to go ahead and react to the hawk. So in other words, the pigeon does not see the hawk coming to attack them, right? But as you guys go up in number, you guys will see that since there's more eyes going ahead and looking for the hawk, right, the pigeons have more time to react, okay? So for this one, for number 5 down here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change this up, right? So for figure 2, this will be, we're talking about number 5. So this one right here. So how does flock size affect the ability of an incoming predator such as a hawk, right? So we can say as pigeon flock increases, right? We can say that pigeons are able to detect predators such as hawks, right? So and I got this information again from this graph up here because I see when there's only one, right, you guys will see that there is a very little reaction time, but as you go up, right, they have more time to go ahead and react. So this one, when there's 50 plus, I have a little under like 30-ish meters to go ahead and react, right? Versus 1, I have maybe less than a meter to go ahead and to react to that success. Okay, so moving on. It says number 6, what type of growth, logistic or exponential, is shown in the graph to the right, and how do you know? So what you guys are looking at is you guys are looking at this black line that's being drawn right here, and they're asking you what type of graph this is. So if you guys remember, we did take notes on this a while back. And on here, there were two types of graphs, right? There is the J-shaped graph. So sometimes we have a graph that looks something like this. And then sometimes we have a graph that looks something like this, right? And when it is J-shaped, this is exponential. And exponential graphs keep growing. So if it keeps on going up, you guys will know that it is exponential, right? If you guys see this types of graph, this is called a logistic graph. And we know it is a logistic graph because it goes ahead and it stops growing, and we see that plateau, and it's S-shaped, right? S-shaped and stops growing. So you guys will see that logistic graphs, like, they level out. This is very common in carrying capacity, right? So this is often when you'll see, like, when an animal has reached carrying capacity, this line that's flat right here, this would be carrying capacity. Okay, so that is our first page on here. Oh, perfect. Right? So the next thing, right, they ask us to go ahead and to define what exactly is carrying capacity. So on carrying capacity, there is a couple of things that you guys should know, right? So carrying capacity is basically, if you guys remember, this is how much the environment can hold, right? How much of an animal the environment can hold, right? So how much of an animal the environment can hold is pretty much the carrying capacity. That's like the summary of it. Things that go ahead and you limit your carrying capacity, so in other words, it stops it from growing, are a couple of things, right? So predator and prey relationships, right? So predators usually stop a population from growing. If you have a low amount of prey, so in other words, if you have whatever you guys are eating, so food/prey is another thing that limits carrying capacity, right? And there's a couple other things that we talked about earlier, such as like weather conditions, if the animals are able to reproduce or not, anything like that, anything that can stop something from growing, right? These are all possible limits of carrying capacity. Okay, so all of these things are possible limits of carrying capacity. And this is not all of them, this is just some of them, but this is just to kind of, for you guys to just kind of bring it back to you. Okay, capacity. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll do this graph. Okay, so it says in number 8, out of the 4 species in the graph above, which most clearly represents exponential growth? So again, we're going to go ahead and we're going to look back up here, right? And we see that exponential means that it keeps growing, and we have that J-shaped. Now, when they ask you this, just kind of beware that you guys might not see it like exactly, or it might not be super perfect. But you guys have to go ahead and see which one's close, which one kind of looks J-shaped. So I look at my squares. That's kind of logistic, right? Because it levels out. This one also levels out. This one kind of goes up and then it levels out. Oh, look at this one. This one goes straight up. So if I'm looking at this, right, you'll see that that one is a little bit more J-shaped. I go ahead and I look at the key, and that says species 1. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write species